Boys and girls, we're almost at the end of the Joshua stories. Joshua, God has brought his people. He promised Abraham, and God always keeps his promise. He said to Abraham, you're going to have this land. First, your people are going to go to the land of Egypt because he's going to give these people much more time to be patient for them to turn from their sins. And now the Lord, now that they're into the promised land, they didn't only get Jericho and Ai, they got this land and this land here. And remember, they already had this big land, this land already. So now they're conquering and they have all their different spots. And now Joshua tells each tribe where they need to go. If it was a big tribe, they got lots of land. Remember, the tribes of Israel were like Reuben, Simeon. Let's sing it quickly. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, Issachar, and Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. These are the patriarchs. Okay, so all of those spots, remember, Joseph had two because Manasseh and Ephraim. So if there was lots of people in their tribe, if Issachar had a lot of people, actually it didn't get that big of a spot. But Judah had a lot of people, so it got a big spot. And God put all the different spots. He told to Joshua, they gave everyone a good spot except for one tribe. One tribe did not get a big spot. They were the tribe of Levi because God was their inheritance. They didn't get the land, but what they did is God put little cities everywhere, all over the land. And the Levites were allowed to live in those cities, and all the land that was around those cities they could have for their farms or what they needed for. Because the Levites had to teach the people and help the people. So all over the Levites were. There was Levites, and there were especially 6 cities that were called cities of refuge. So if someone killed somebody by accident, they could run to that city and no one could hurt them. So now many years have passed, and after they got them all, those 3 tribes, remember Reuben and Manasseh and Zebulun, they said, it's time for us to go back. We've helped you conquer the land. Now we'd like to go back to our families. And everybody said, thank you very much. And they went on their way. But they thought to themselves, you know what? When we go across the Jordan River, maybe people will say, hey, you guys are different than us. You're not part of us. And they might not even want us to go to the temple, to go to the synagogue, not the synagogue, go to the tabernacle and worship. Let's do something. Let's build a beautiful altar, just like the altar that was in the temple. The tabernacle. And we won't do it to have burnt offerings on it. We'll just have it there so that when people said, hey, you're not part of us, we'll say, well, yes, we are. See, that altar is a reminder that we all belong together. So they built that altar, just like the altar that was for the synagogue, and then they went across. I keep saying synagogue, tabernacle. And then they went across to that land, and when the people that were in this side, when they saw that altar, they said, look what they're doing. They're already starting to disobey God's command. They're going to worship in a different spot. Let's go talk to them, they said. So they went to them, and Phinehas, Eleazar's son, he said, what are you doing? Don't you know that God could be angry with all of us? Remember Achan? He sinned, and all of us had to bear that punishment. They said, no. We're not going to sacrifice on it. We just want it to be there so that you know that we belong together. So then they were all happy about that again. Well, then Joshua was old. And Joshua said to the people, he got the elders together and he said, I'm old. I'm going to die soon. But I want to encourage you to trust God. All the promises that God has given us, every single one of them, he's helped us in every single thing. God has driven out these nations before us. He's promised, and now cling to him. Remember him. Just like your parents have to tell you to remember to. And the minister tells all of us, including you and me, remember God. Because he said, don't get married to these people that don't love God. Don't become good friends with them and start worshiping their idols. Because if you do, God won't chase them out of the land. And they're going to be like whips on your back and like burrs. And they're going to be like thorns in your eyes. They're going to be like traps and snares. So Joshua encouraged the people to keep serving the Lord. And then just before he died, he got many of the elders again together. They all went to the land of Shechem. And there they stood. And Joshua said, this is what the Lord said. Your father Abraham and his father Terah that lived by the river, that's a big river, Euphrates, they didn't worship me. They worshiped other gods. But I called Abraham and I brought him to this land, and I gave Abraham Isaac, and Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. I gave Esau this part here, Seir. I gave him, but your Isaac's children, Jacob's children, he went down to Egypt. And then I raised up Moses. He brought them out of Egypt, and he caused the Red Sea to go all over those Egyptians. And you stayed in the wilderness for a long time. And then I brought you up over the land of Moab, and Balak came to curse you, but I didn't let him. No, I didn't. I only blessed you. And then you came into the land. I gave you all this land of the Amorites and all this great big land. And then Joshua said, now, today you have to choose. Put away your idols. Put away them all. He said, and now choose. Do you want to serve those idols that your fathers had by the river? Or do you want to choose the idols that the people that you're going to now? Well, then that's what you'll have to choose. But as for me and my house, we are going to serve the Lord. That's what Joshua told them. And the people said, oh, we would never leave God. We would never leave God. We want to serve the Lord too. And Joshua said, you can't. It's too hard. You're going to turn away. God's holy. And if you start worshiping other idols and other gods, God will not forgive you. Then he will let those other nations hurt you. They said, no, we will serve God. And Joshua said, then your witnesses against your witnesses that you said you would serve the Lord. And the people said, we are witnesses. And then Joshua took a big stone, and he said, he put the stone by the tabernacle, and he said, when you see this stone, you remember this stone heard all the words that you just said. They heard you promise that you would serve the Lord. And the people said, that's a good witness. And then Joshua died. He was 110 years old, and they buried him. And the people, they remember I told you last time, I think, that they buried Joseph's bones too. And then the people served the Lord. All the days of Joshua, they kept their promise. And they kept their promise all the days of the elders who lived after Joshua. But then after that, well, we'll learn about that in a little while. Joshua is a picture of Jesus. He's a little one, and it's Jesus who says, trust me. You can't live it. You can't be good all by yourself. You can't. I can't. We need Jesus. And is Jesus willing to help us and to save us? Absolutely. And that's why your parents sent you to Christian school, right? So that you'll remember to trust God and to love him with all your heart and all your soul and all your might and all your strength. And that, boys and girls, is the end of that story.